Hey all, this is 012 and
Lord Jackass himself, Jarek.
we're here at you with another review of Full Metal Alchemist Season 1 of the original Episode 2, Body of the Sanctioned. And a very good episode as well, basically getting the ball rolling on how the show starts off. So, as always, Jarek, since this was sort of my thing, and you were the watcher as well. I mean, even though I know you've probably seen a lot of this too. What was your favorite thing again about this?
Oh my god, there was a lot of good. This was an interesting one for symbolism. A lot I'm not going to say we get a glimpse of things to come, but we find out more about Miss Rose's fiance, Kane, and what happened to him. And dear God, was that ever going to be the world's biggest bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken? Rose? Rose? Again, highlighting the hypocrisy of this motherfucker. And I mean, just to give a brief overview, yeah, he did agree to transmute her boyfriend back to life. It's like, oh, well, and Edward does call out his bullshit on this, telling him it's like, there are some things you can't transmute, the cost is way too high. Which, again, he kind of alluded to earlier, but he didn't really go in depth to it. Well, now we see what he meant, and we get a little hint as to it, where when the priest finally reveals his hypocrisy when he feels that he caught Edward and destroyed Alphonse. Spoiler warning, no, he didn't. He's got Edward. He basically sicked the people on him. It's like, oh, these guys know what's up, and they mob him. You see them bashing in Alphonse with their little spears or whatever, and they take Edward hostage, and he's like, I'll just be taking that watch. I'm sure this is a power booster. With this, you shouldn't be able to do that fancy alchemy of yours. And, of course...
Oh, no.
Yeah. And, again, he has Rose bring him his meal. And it's like, oh, how sweet. Could you feed it to me? She just kind of gives him that look and walks off. But, as Mr. Holy Man is gloating... He's not hearing the sound of what appears to be digging beneath his little jail cell. He's also not noticing a few of the other weird little things going on, like, oh, I don't know, a missing church bell, maybe some old frayed wires getting repaired. But anyways, he promised to let Rose have a little chat, and there's the scene where she goes to the room where they're keeping Kane.
Yes.
And by the way, again, the biggest bucket of Kane's finger-looking good chicken you ever did see. And, of course, it's through this veil, there's a bed with the big post, and it's got
Well, hold on, I just want to interject here. I somehow knew, since you were making so many of those comments in the anime, I should have figured, Jared, you were going to make several of the fried chicken jokes. But go on, I just want to point that out.
What do you mean my fiance ain't got no chicken? When he got chicken right here? Yeah, sorry. Those of you who know, but yeah, he says the figure behind these curtains is Kane, and when you look at the scene, the light coming in, it almost looks like one of those funeral homes when somebody passed away,
Mm-hmm.
And he's always saying Rose, Rose,
yeah, Rose,
big brother Edward, big brother Edward. Sorry, wrong scene.
But, similar to it, though. Very similar to it.
Yeah. And, we get another interesting scene after that where the priest is visited in his sleep is woken up from a dream where a giant red serpent is, making a symbol similar to the Ouroboros one above his bed. Is oh, hi, Lust.
Yeah.
Yeah, gee, that's not ominous or anything. That's not portending anything important.
Nope.
And she points out to him, it's we had an agreement. No one is to know about the Philosopher's Stone we gave you. It's nobody does. What about that young man? So, of course, he needs to fix the problem. And, of course, Edward still has a problem that everybody still thinks this guy's on the up and up. And, again, he hasn't been paying attention to all the little weird things that have been happening since Mr. Elric's been in his jail cell. So, of course, he goes down to visit him and gloat and have his big moment of glory, And Edward's just, Edward's not even paying attention. He's just, eating his bread. He's wait a minute. There's like this moment of realization. How did you get your hands out of those bindings? And then he just kind of like moves to the side, and you see there's a microphone behind him, and everything he's been talking about how he's been lying, how it's all this philosopher's stone, how he's been manipulating how he's been gulling the sweet, gullible masses into doing his bidding, and eventually over time he'll have this army of blindly faithful individuals who will walk into the jaws of death just for him alone, because why should they fear death when he can bring back their loved ones?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this also leads to the fact that just before this scene, he revealed to Rose, it's like, well, she snuck into the creature's room, and it's like, okay, yes, technically I couldn't bring him back. I mean, there's some things even beyond the power of a philosopher's stone. But at least these birds can be trained to speak and to try to simulate human voices. And he tries to stick it on her. Now, we never actually see this gigantic, big bird-ass looking thing that's supposed to be her boyfriend actually finish her off. Lock that in your mind for later. So while he's gloating to Edward, and Edward just reveals, oh yeah, you've been on candid microphone this whole time. And we saw like a little bit before that, Alphonse repairing the wires, turning that bell he stole from the top of the church. Yeah, how are you going to kill Venom now, Spider-Man? And he converted it into a megaphone. Yeah, he actually used his alchemy to turn like the bell into a huge megaphone, connected the wires, and then basically dug into Edward's cell to create the microphone at the other end. So they basically tricked this asshole into revealing to the whole fucking town that he's a fraud. And so, he's losing his shit, and, then I forget how, but he inevitably learns, oh, Alphonse wasn't dead. That was just a dummy of him I made to look like him in the town square for your people to beat up. Because, yeah, in that scene, Alphonse isn't fighting back. He isn't even trying to, like, do anything to protect himself.
Well, we didn't even see the soul of his eyes, which I pointed out. It's like, isn't it funny how he looked completely, like, black and lifeless?
And because he's basically an empty suit of armor, all they have to do is, like, alchemize some basic stones to look like a statue of Alphonse. This, again, shows how clever these kids are. So, he's, like, the people are revolting. They're in the town square. And he's like, oh, really? You think I'm a fraud? Let me show you the true power of a holy man. And he like brings a bunch of the Leto statues to life and gets them to start moving. Surely this is a miracle. Only a man of God could do this. And Edward's just like, if you're gonna keep doing this Wrath of God shit, let me show you how it's really done. Slaps his hand to the ground, and he basically makes the biggest statue of Leto animate and obey his, and he's losing his shit. It's like, I don't understand. I took your watch. You shouldn't be able to do anything on this level. It's like, oh, you don't understand. I'm on a completely different level. And it really goes to show, like, just as he's been lying and manipulating the people, withholding information, so has Lust been withholding information from him.
Uh-huh.
Because she would surely know, the Elrics can do this kind of level stuff. But it's just fun. I told him, when I saw that, it's like, oh, that's cute. You've got a bunch of stone automatons. I've got the Colossus of Rhodes.
Yep.
And so, of course, his little goons are no match, and the power of his stone runs out. It's like, oh, look at that. Fake holy man, fake stone. And he has his little Akira moment where the backlash starts changing his arm up, and yeah, it's like, Elric! So after that, Elric he, as much as Edward hates this guy, he does try to help him, but later he has his little chat with Miss Lust, and it's like, oh, come on, of course we didn't waste a real stone on you. This town was nothing more than a diversion. A little oasis in the desert, drawing out the treasure seekers looking for the legend of the stone. Still, you were useful and you served your purpose, and of course it's like, can I eat him now, Lust?
Yeah, Gluttony was there too.
Yep, and of course, so, like, right immediately after that, we see, oh, wait a minute, but why is he over there? It's like, and you see, of course, the good cardinal show up as like, oh my, what has happened here? has evil marched into my house while I was away? And he picks up one of the dead birds and he just brings them all to life and releases them into the air. It's a miracle. It's like he was the real cardinal. This is the real cardinal. And he kind of gives like, he looks back at the window to where lust and gluttony are, and he gives like this sinister look. It's like, I'm sorry, Envy, but I'm going to have you assume that form for a little bit longer. But all in all, this was a very interesting, and at the end, there's a very interesting scene where Rose confronts the two brothers, and she's like, you know, you think you've helped us, but did you really? It's like, wouldn't it have just been better to not do any of this? And Edward gives a speech that to her that more or less amounts to, yeah, what kind of life would it have been for you to keep living under his lies? You need to learn how to live on your own. And Alphonse, of course, is a bit more diplomatic about it. He tries to have the hope and the optimism, but he does understand how she feels. I mean, in a sense, they're basically trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just they understand this better than she does. But it really is kind of a very interesting lesson where Edward plays the role of the father giving the tough love. Alphonse is kind of like the brother who just kind of comes in and tries to soften the blow. It's a very
Or if you want to say the motherly figure.
You know, in a sense, he kind of is. At least compared to Edward, anyways.
Well, yeah.
But all in all, it's a very good episode, and again, we get to see just how clever these guys are. Not that we didn't in Brotherhood, but here we really just start to see how creative they can be.
Yeah, and, well, again, basically, you talked about all the points that I was going to.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I mean, I said, what were your favorite things? Basically, in a sense, you went through a whole episode synopsis on your own there, so that's why I just decided to let you fly with it. But yeah, basically, to reiterate it, that's what I love too. Basically, the sort of peril, the danger, them trying to figure out what they need to do. Cornello keeping Rose on his side, using that bird to mimic, or that disturbing-looking chimera bird, because the thing was all whacked out, pupilless, and basically soulless thing, just transmuted with a bunch of other birds made to mimic his voice, and again, just that creepy Rose, just using that, and both in Japanese and English, that was creepy both times. It was a little less creepy in Japanese, because the voice sounds like Rose. So it was a bit more robotic, where again it was softer and subtler in English. Again, not trying to insult the Japanese language, because that still was creepy, but it was like, I get what they were going for, and again it's because again the Japanese don't inflict like we do. We use a lot more emotion. They're a bit more honor based, so the emotion sometimes is there, sometimes it's not. So it's probably just like Rose like that. But I could be wrong. So if anyone wants to like point that out in the comments, please do. Because I'm not trying to be prejudiced or weird here, but yeah, I'm just saying.
I know it's not purposeful, but with them saying it like rose in Japanese, it's almost like he's trying. It's all. I mean, if you're Hispanic, it would almost be like Rosario. Because, I mean, it is, kind of like a parody of the Catholic Church. And, sometimes, some people say like crucifix. Some of us say rosario. It is what it is. But, and also it's like, can you tell Cain how to get to Sesame Street?
Well, yeah. And, I mean, there were those whole things. And again, I know I went over it in the short review, and I know you guys probably would find it weird, but I'm saying, like, when I say I like, because again, there was a thing for it, because I know we all know damsel in distress moments, but I know there was a term coined guy in distress moments. And again, the reason why I like it is because in Brotherhood, I think there's maybe a moment or two where it happens. In this show, there's a little bit more, because I actually like how the Elric brothers face a bit more peril, they face a bit more trouble. And again, this is still earlier on in their careers, they haven't blossomed into what we know of them yet, because there's a lot of backtracking and a lot of backstory and stuff they do with this show, and that's another thing I like too. They really show how they grow as alchemists, how they grow as state alchemists, and become the people there. And when I say sort of state alchemist, I know Alphonse wasn't a state alchemist, but I always considered him to be a sub one, considering he was always along, with his brother for the ride, and it was like his assistant. So I always consider them both to be on the same thing, even though it was only Edward with the title. The thing is, I like when they face that sort of peril, and even though it was bogus, it was cool how they set it up like, oh man, they're trouble, but you know what's going on. And then when they tricked Cornello with the microphone, he gave everything away. The townspeople were pissed at him. You know, he's trying to do whatever they can, and then they don't believe it. There's like, yeah, you know, that was such a great scene. And then the whole ending to the show, too, to quickly go over that as well, because again, Jarek beat me to the punch on a lot of things, but hey, I don't mind, that's what happens, because when you like a lot of the same scenes, what else can you say except for repeating the same thing, and I'm trying not to do that. But again, them killing Cornello, them using envy, because the townspeople are mistrustful of him, saying what's going on. They find the dead birds, they're creeped out by the dead birds. You know, Cornello comes back and says, oh, there was an imposter in my place. Let me make you believe my believers. And, you know, he has them come alive again, and as the birds are flying away, they all explode away from the public view, meaning they were only going to be temporarily alive anyway, or they were just puppeted, so whichever happened. And, you know, again, they were using envy to trick people, and it's just funny because if I remember, much like they say in Brotherhood, half the town believes it's Cornello, half the town doesn't, and it's gonna bring in that civil war like they mentioned in Brotherhood and Lior, because they do bring that in. And I know they don't mention it because Rose only shows up in Brotherhood once. Rose will come back in this show, like I set up. So I really hope in Brotherhood Rose wasn't killed anywhere in that, because that would really suck considering Lior ends up in a civil war in the middle of, I don't know why I did quotations for the middle, but in the middle of, you know, the first part of Brotherhood. So again, it really makes you wonder if anything happened to her or anyone else, because the devastation in Lior was looking bad in Brotherhood, just like it did in Ishval, there we go. And again, it was so well done, and you know, Rose mistrusting things, she doesn't know what to believe in, and I know what happened before the scene where they run into envious Cornello, but with Rose, she goes, again, you took away all we had, it would have been better just to believe this and keep us in happy bliss. And he's like, you got two perfectly good legs, Rose, you can get there yourself. And you know, again, like Jarek said, Edward being the brash one, but I love how Alphonse comes up and she's like, you know, it's okay to believe, Rose, don't lose faith, don't give up on everything you know, because you know what, I still believe, and believe it or not, it's Alphonse who tells Rose. And he probably went into greater detail. They probably didn't do it for the show because it was right at the end. So it's something to give us to whet our appetites, because it seems like they're going to give the truth of what happened to the Elrics in the third episode of this original anime. But he basically tells Rose the truth of what happened to him. And, you know, it ends with, you know, the little thing at the end with them seeing their mother in the little flashback. And then giving the, you know, famous quote we know that they do throughout the show with alchemy. And, you know, that's where it ends. And, you know, that was just the whole great setup for it. And to the favorite characters, is that's the next point. I know I went over it yesterday a little bit in the short review. But again, for me, since I'll start that off, I have to give it to, you know, Vic Mignogna, Romy Paco as Edward. Great performance. I mean, as always, I'm not going to complain about either Romy Paco or Vic Mignogna. They give great performances. Alphonse, Aaron Dismuke, or Dismuke, however you say it, Rie Kugamiya, great performances from those two, because I love how, like, again, I love how Alphonse in the show is the voice of reason, and not just like, you know, I can be that, but, you know, I have the same, because it's like, I like how there's more of an openness to Alphonse, to where in this one, it's like he's there to protect his brother, and it's like he's his brother's shield, and same thing with Edward. There's like, where Edward is more of the cynic and more of, I'm going to take the straightforward approach to tell people, Alphonse is the more, like Jarek said, calming, collective, hey, if you want to believe in faith, if you want to believe there's something out there, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you because I do. I believe after all we went through, there is something else out there, and this was whatever force that was teaching us a lesson not to do these things. But we have to cross the line one more time to get our bodies back. But I swear we will never do this again, sort of thing. But that's what I love about Alphonse. He's more of the, like, Because given how he lost his body and experienced what he experienced, how could he not believe there was a force greater than human understanding or science? Take that, science disbelievers right now, but I'm not going to get into that. But, and then there was that one. Oh, yeah, and I forgot I had 4 people in this one. So as I continue, gotta give it to Andy Mullins, Kenryu Arimoto, Cornello. Great performance from him, too. Just deliciously evil man, manipulative, but cowardly when things go wrong. The freakouts Andy Mullins and Kenryu Arimoto give are just great. And then Rose, this poor lost soul,
Yes.
Colin Klinkenbeard, Huoko Kuwashima, just great performances for that. And I gotta give the edge to Colin Klinkenbeard. The way she gave that at the end, it was better for us to believe. You had no right to come in here and ruin that. What am I supposed to do now? I don't have Kane. I have nobody. And, just the way she was doing that. And then it's so cold when Alphonse is trying to talk to her. Please, just go. It's just like, again, great performances, Colin Klinkenbeard. You're a great actress. I got to give a thumbs up to you on that. And again, great performance from Huoko Kuwashima, too. But those are mine, Jarek.
Oh, exact same, but again, different order. Like, for my number 1, I have to go with Colin Klinkenbeard. She really brought out just the desperation, the hope, everything with Rose. Like, when she gets to see her boyfriend, what she thinks is her boyfriend, Kane, you can see,
about that.
The light elation, just the way her voice kind of softly cracks before she composes herself and gets back, which seriously, that takes a lot of subtlety for a voice actor or anyone in general. But then, like, the scene at the end that he just mentioned where she's, angry where she's so angry she can't even, like, really shout, but she wants to. It's just, she's drowning in so much emotion that it just comes out quiet and subdued, and yet you can feel it. It's like, what would be so wrong letting us just, believe? Why did you have to do it? It really is, like, what you would expect when somebody has been confronted that everything they've ever believed is a lie. All of it was just, and yet it was conveyed so beautifully and so perfectly. This woman is very close to becoming the new queen of voice acting because, good Lord, look up her resume. You will be impressed. As for my number 2, please forgive me, Mr. Mignana, but I have to give it to Andy Mullins as Cornello.
Yeah.
Good Lord, this guy is the most deliciously evil slime ball, and I fucking love it. Everything about this guy, going from, brash and arrogant, full of himself. Oh, I've got you, Elric. You can't pull a fast one on me. To the sheer terror and desperation when the alchemy backfires on him. The bargaining that's like, I need another stone. It's like, why didn't you give me a real one? Just everything with this Cornello guy was so perfect. I just kind of wish we could get more of them, but hey, Mr. Mullins, you did good, and for once you actually overcame Mr. Manana. This show has some of the greatest voice acting I've heard since Black Butler. And of course, number 3 has to be Mr. Manana, because, I mean, come on. Really, Broly, just everything with this man. This is a guy who is, like, up there with Mr. Yuri Lowenthal and Mr. Crispin Freeman, like, the holy trinity of male voice actors for me. And of course, Alphonse comes in a very respectable 4th place because how could I not? I mean, he was, again, the soft, compassionate voice of hope. It's like, I don't want you to not believe it. That's the thing. I hesitate to say it, but in a very real sense, like if we could compare it to like the Green Lantern Corps, he would be a Blue Lantern.
Yep.
I mean, he's the soft, compassionate voice of hope. He'll still roll his sleeves up and, mess a bitch up if they threaten good people. But at the end of the day, he really is like the mother, He's the person you run to when you need comfort, when you need someone to tell you it's going to be all right.
And I think that's what this show was trying to emulate, is how Alphonse got more of their mother and Edward got more of Hohenheim. And, that's sort of just the hilarious thing about how it's like they emulate 2 different people but are the same, but yet they both love each other conditionally, and nothing stops that. Like how Hohenheim loved his family so much, So did Trisha Elric. She loved her family, and it's just both the kids. They probably emulate both parents, but as we know, you go or emulate sometimes one more or the other, or you have the traits. And again, isn't it funny how when you look at them, Alphonse looks more like the mother, Edward looks more like Hohenheim.
And yet Edward acts more like the dad,
Yeah.
and Alphonse acts more like, it's kind of funny. That's how it works in my family.
Oh, gene traits. Oh.
Yeah. Everybody says I look like my dad, and yet I have a lot more of my mom's tendencies from time to time.
Well, everybody says I'm a cross between my dad and my mom, but yet I've got a bit of both. There's times where I act like my dad, like my personality's a lot like dad, but yet I have feelings and worries like my mom, and I'm a worrywart like my mom, and I worry about things. But yeah, it's funny how that is and how that can be. But I mean, and at the same time, and I'll try not to spend too much extra time on this, guys, because I'm trying to keep this more concise for you. But I have to say, I wish I wrote him down. One, I know because she's the main character; she's always in there. But I'll start off with Maxie Whitehead, who does Alphonse in Brotherhood. And again, not taking any away from Maxie Whitehead. She's a great Alphonse, great performance, not taking anything away from her. But there's something special, 2 episodes in already, with Aaron Dismuke, or Dismuke. I'm going to say it's probably Dismuke, because Dismuke doesn't sound right. But Aaron Dismuke, who plays Alphonse in this, who was a little boy doing the voice, and they still use the fishbowl to emulate the echoiness of his voice in the armor, which I think that was a cool thing I learned watching Brotherhood. Is we use the fishbowl to stick up to their face and like, but it's basically like there's something about Aaron Dismuke's performance I love that Maxie Whitehead has, but it's missing. And again, I think it's because of the lack of drama in Brotherhood, because Brotherhood is way more action-oriented. The drama's there, but you notice where it's more for the entertainment effect and to accentuate the evil and good of the show, and not really the heartfelt moments. This one is heartfelt moments, the music, the score, the way the characters are, the way it's written. And again, Aaron Dismuke brings that so much more that it's like, I miss this with Maxie Whitehead. It isn't there. And because I gotta give it to Andy Mullins. I can't remember who did Father Cornello in Brotherhood, but I know it wasn't Andy Mullins. It was the new voice actor. But the voice actor in Brotherhood was good, but his time as Cornello was so short, and they brushed through it like that again, Andy Mullins brought so much more to this character that's just delightfully evil. Yeah, I know that if these people believe in a sun god, if he's real, that's their business. I'm just manipulating them to get power and to give them anything I want. And anything I tell them, they will believe. And it's like that delicious evilness that I love that he brings out, that again, because they went through it so fast, is missing from Brotherhood. And again, like I said, only 2 episodes in, but there's a reason. And I know Jarek agreed with me, because I know Jarek doesn't remember everything about the original either, but he even said, I think we're going to like this more than Brotherhood. Not that we're taking anything away from Brotherhood. And Brotherhood, I know we're going to get to the second part first after we're done finishing season 1 of this, but like I've said, there's something special about this that I think people have forgotten and that I love more than what Brotherhood did. Brotherhood is great. It's a classic. And again, not taking anything away from it, but like Jarek honorably said when we started doing these, Brotherhood is probably more the Kai version, and then there's this, and like Dragon Ball, I don't mind what they do in Kai, but I'm fine with my Dragon Ball collection. I don't want to own Kai, because it's the same thing, just different voice actors who were somewhat better than the originals, but I miss some of the original characters, like Stephanie Nadolny, Tiffany Vollmer, and all of them. I miss some of them. I mean, maybe they're just too old. Maybe they didn't want to do it anymore. But, that's the thing. It's just like there's something different about it. And I think this gets too much flack. Brotherhood was good, but this is also a masterpiece.
And with how deliciously evil Mr. Mullins played Cornello, I have to make this joke. Cornello es...
Sorry, guys, getting too hot.
Padre Cornello es Diablo, if you know what I mean. But hey, with him wearing the glove and me wearing this, we got double MJ power.
Well, I was about to say that's why I'm just like I'll go MJ in this one. It's like I forgot to put him on when we started, but I'm like, oh, I'll doing this, and I'll be like MJ, but either way, Jarek already gave his final thoughts in it towards the end of his thing there, but as I said in the short review, if you guys have seen it, it's a great episode, really entertaining, really brings out the people they will go up against, and again, the deeperness of the rabbit hole. I don't mind that they're showing the homunculi early and we're getting what they're about. It's still good, because you can tell you're wondering what lust and gluttony are and why they mention Envy, who's being a fake Cornello, even though we haven't fully seen Envy yet. But it's funny how all that stuff is culminating, and why these people, if they're the homunculi, are doing this to Lior. You'll find out, and again, it's just great stuff, and I absolutely love it. But again, what are your guys' thoughts? Let us down below. Have you guys seen episode 2? Again, do you guys remember this one? Because I know it's a very unpopular thing of me to say, and I know a lot of people say that they like Brotherhood more than this. I respect that opinion. You are welcome to it. Brotherhood is good. The action is phenomenal. The story is still good. It's enjoyable. I love it. I have a higher appreciation of it than when I first watched it with my friend Davis, and watching it again because I haven't watched it on my own by myself yet at any means, and I would love to watch both in Japanese and English, as we've already been doing again too. But I have a better appreciation for the show now thanks to Jarek and rewatching it with Jarek, and Jarek pointing out some of my inaccuracies and maybe even undeserved hatred at it, because it's still a good show. But again, I see this, and there's something that this does that Brotherhood doesn't, that this is missing. And maybe you could say there could have been more action in this, it could have been more exciting, but I love the characterization, I love the drama, I love the journeyman's tale the original presents.
Well, and like you mentioned, I love the fact that they're not like these big, powerful, badass ass kickers like they were in
Brotherhood.
In Brotherhood. Like in Brotherhood, they at times almost seemed a little too good up until like the ninjas from Jing showed up. Like that was the first time I felt like they were really being pushed, other than Scar. Like I kind of like the fact that this one shows, yeah, they're really good alchemists. They're prodigies. They're incredibly clever, but they're still kids.
Well,
they're still maturing. They're still growing. They're still learning, and that's the funny thing about it. It's like I felt like Brotherhood didn't really emphasize that. As brilliant as they are still children.
Yeah, well, again, maybe that's why. Remember that article I told you I read, I think some months back, where I just stumbled upon it on my news feed, and they said that because they didn't mention the original show, but they were using a lot of the scenes and stuff from Brotherhood, but they were saying that the Elrics and some of the other characters in Full Metal Brotherhood are like Mary Sue's. That for some reason nothing can touch these guys. And I'm like, yes and no, but I could sort of see where they can get those conclusions, because some people acclimatize this stuff like, oh, I'm all better now. I'm done.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They were incredibly good, in Brotherhood, but there were people who could thrash them. Like, I think we all know up until the end, Bradley would have totally wrecked their shit, and Roy Mustang probably could have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, like, against most normal state alchemists, they probably would easily mop the floor with them in Brotherhood. But if it was people like Riza Hawkeye, Roy Mustang, Armstrong, Bradley, Scar, or, I mean, hell, we even saw, like, the ninjas from Jing put up a damn good fight against those two.
Yeah.
But, again, like Boku said, I love the more slow-oriented progression towards them becoming.
Yeah, just to show it again, to emphasize the point.
Yeah, what we know they will become. It's great, because, again, like, they're good, but, they're not there yet.
Yeah, well, even again, like we talked about it, even the movie that ends the whole thing after the first 2 seasons of this accentuates the point that you may not like how it ends, but it gives the idea that everybody knows they're alive, everybody knows that they care, everybody knows that they care about them, and that there's this contentness that everybody's happy. It may suck, you may not like the result, but even though I've not seen the ending twice, The ending to Brotherhood is storybook.
Or you know,
this is a bit more realistic, even though I know it's still fantasy, sci-fi stuff. But the ending to Brotherhood is storybook. It really is.
You know what the word I would use would be?
What?
I mean, since we've been talking a little bit about how, Father Cornello is a perversion of faith and Rose is the dutiful, faithful child, I would say acceptance. Kind of like in some of the Neon Genesis Evangelion endings where Shinji can only get to the good end once he learns to accept his own faults and failures and those of everyone else around him. It's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I know, Oda probably didn't mean that in all the Christian iconography and whatnot, but hey, whether he meant it or not, it still had a pretty good Christian message in it. And
yeah,
strangely enough, Fullmetal Alchemist 1 and even Brotherhood, they kind of carry that torch forward.
Yeah, with the the Nazism and all that stuff too. But again, if she was making a point, because like it said, what I found out about Hiromu Arikawa, she was making a bit of a point of what happened to the Chinese and Japanese in World War II and all that stuff with the Nazis and the Axis powers. And hey, welcome to her. She can do that, and you can tell where the hatred and all that stuff towards that come from. It's just that, and the original, I think we talked about it last time. I like how it's more subtle. In Brotherhood, it's like, oh god, yeah, these guys are the Nazis, and it's like, oh.
Well, and it's funny,
I like the military and Fullmetal Alchemist, I really do.
And it's funny too, because I mean, whether she meant it or not, one way or another, it did convey the same sort of message. It's like, even if you weren't going that route, it's like one way or another, you still found yourself walking that path.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of funny, like how these happy little accidents happen, as they say. Maybe you didn't intend to walk with the man from Nazareth, but somehow you still got there.
Well, there you go. And, again, just leave a comment down below there, guys. Sorry for that rant from both of us at the end, but, just let us know what you think. And until then, this is 012 Boku and...
The beautiful jackass.
And we... and we will see you guys again later, alright? Deuces.